Hello, my name is Scott Davis and welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for May 10th to May 16th of 2015. And on May 10th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Taurus. It's in the 23rd hexagram, and on the outside of the wheel, we see the chop mark for the 23rd, numbered from bottom to top. The 23rd goes yin, 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 yang. And then the 23rd hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here is the 23rd gate of assimilation, splitting apart, amorality, the awareness and understanding that leads to the acceptance of diversity. It's located in the throat center in an individual energy path in the knowing circuit called the channel of structuring, a design of individuality, genius to free, that connects to its harmonic, the 43rd gate of insight, breakthrough. In order for achievement to maintain, a new order must be fairly established. And I found that human design is amazingly accurate in describing the person, that I use it as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on May 10th. We have the sun in the 23rd gate with the earth in the 43rd gate. The north node is in the 18th gate with the south node in the 17th gate. Mercury is in the 16th gate with Venus in the 15th gate, and Mars is in the 8th gate with Jupiter in the 7th gate, and Saturn is retrograde in the 34th gate. Uranus is in the 51st gate. Neptune is in the 37th gate, and Pluto is retrograde in the 54th gate. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And the neutrino forecast is really just a weather report. So no matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we have one channel definition due to the transit field. With the sun in the 23rd gate and the earth in the 43rd gate, we've got the channel of structuring until May 15th. And this is about individuals having amazing insights that require two conditions to be fulfilled to be recognized by others. The first, the person who has the epiphany needs to wait to be invited to share their insights. And second, they need to explain their idea in a step-by-step process so that their audience can methodically understand how this quantum leap in thinking was arrived at. More likely, this is going to be a time period when people blurt out whatever's on their minds. So I suspect we will encounter more freaks than geniuses. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi-Ching line values daily, because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these shifts in line values daily, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. If your strategy and authority doesn't lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. So let's get started. On May 10th, we have the sun. The day actually begins with the sun in the first line of the 23rd hexagram, which is proselytization, the attempt to undermine one set of values for another. Exalted, the sage who in the extreme can defend evil as a part of the greater good. The powerful expression of an insight which will undermine established values. Detrimented, the missionary whose very light brings darkness, the powerful expression of an insight which will produce a negative effects. And when we're looking at the sun in the first, second, and third lines, this is the lower trigram. People are more absorbed in their own process. And the theme of the first line day is a fear or an anxiety that needs to be investigated. So it's a day to study, not to act, a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a day to deal with things that you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. And then later on the 10th, the sun leaves the investigative first line and moves into the hermit second line of the 23rd hexagram at 3:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 23-2 is described as self-defense, the need to abandon tolerance when survival is threatened. Exalted, the principle of preservation at its most acute, the abandonment of tolerance when individual expression is threatened, a detrimented satisfaction with just protecting oneself by fending off hostility, the defense of individual expression in the face of hostility. And the second line day, the hermit line, everybody's waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly called for natural talents. Again, lower trigram, people are stuck in their own trip. Probably not a great day to have a big social event because folks would rather stay home under the influence of the hermit. And then on the 11th, the sun then moves into the third line of the 23, so into the martyr line. This shift happens at 2:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted in the 23-3 as individuality, independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others, exalted vitality and personal power that can engender jealousy but not threat, individual expression which attracts attention but not threat. Third line days, the martyr, we're talking about a trial and error process, bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into us under that third line influence. So it's a day to be careful on the roads, be careful of the swinging doors, swinging elbows, things in your immediate environment. It's a day where we might have bonds made and broken. Again, this is about trial and error. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane, but you have to be careful because things can go wrong, which ultimately may lead to discovery. And then also on the 11th, Venus moves out of the 15th gate in hexagram and into the 52nd. So right down here, coming out of the root center, and hopefully finding one that's nice and sticky. There we go. All right, so in human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, values, natural law, in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, and what disturbs you on a moral level. Your design and personality Venuses tell about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life, and that if you don't act with moral clarity, Venus can be unkind in its retribution. In the 52nd gate in hexagram, Venus is in the gate of inaction, keeping still, the mountain, temporary and self-imposed inaction for the benefit of assessment. In the first line of the 52nd hexagram, this is think before you speak, exalted, the pause that is so profound that it leads to silence, the pacification of energy that leads to stillness. Detriment is speaking first and living with the consequences afterwards, the energy that cannot be stilled. And then on the 12th, the sun then moves up into the fourth line, so leaving the martyr line, moving into the opportunist line of the 23rd hexagram at 1:50 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the sun in the fourth line of the 23 is exalted, so you would see an upward pointing triangle, but it's connected to the Earth in the 43, which is detrimented, or a downward pointing triangle in its connection to the 23rd hexagram. So when we see the 23-4 in the just now chart at this point, it's going to appear as if it's a 6-pointed star. So the exaltation upward pointing arrow overlaid with the detrimented downward pointing arrow. So it's described as fragmentation, diversification without a perceived potential for synthesis, exalted fatalism and egotism, and damn the consequences, individual expression that has no collective value, detrimented atheism and paranoia, individual expression that engenders isolation and fear. And fourth line days, we are moving out of the lower trigram, first, second, third line, into the upper trigram, fourth, fifth, sixth lines. So what we're looking at here is that the perspective changes from looking inward to now looking more outward, with the fourth line themes of friendship and companionship and networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are much more open to networking and being friendly and social. And also on the 12th, Mercury moves from the 16th gate in hexagram to the 35th. And also we have Mars move from the 8 into the 20, which then brings a definition. Okay, let's find something to connect it all. And with that, the defined sacral center. All right. So let's start out. We'll talk about Mercury in the 35th. Mercury, as you may know, was the messenger of the gods in mythology. So this is about communication and expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music, according to Ra. What do we need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 35th? I'd expect people to say, I feel, and usually this is, I feel it's time for a change. This is the gate of change, progress. By design, progress cannot exist in a vacuum and is dependent on interaction. Mercury in the 35-1 is humility, the ability to accept rejection, exalted, the artist that accepts rejection as part of the process, acceptance of change and rejection as part of the process, detrimented, a self-destructive reaction to rejection, loss of worth, change and rejection as humiliation. And then with Mars, we're moving from the 8 to the 20. Mars is in the gate of the now, contemplation, recognition, and awareness in the now transforms understanding into right action. Mars is in the first line of the 20, which is superficiality, a reliance on shallowness, exalted, raising of superficiality to an art form. The sloganeer, superficial expressions as an art form, detrimented superficial expression of personality, the expression of the superficial personality. Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. And Mars represents the warrior archetype, and by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars, excuse me, from immaturity to wisdom. And with Mars in the 20th gate in hexagram and Saturn in the 34, that gives us the channel of charisma until May 20th, which will influence us to become busier in the now, where the things we think about become the experiences that we're having. expect folks to be deeply involved in their daily activities, unaware of the expectations of others. People are not likely to even notice how busy they are, with the possibility of erupting spontaneously without an awareness of why. Uh, they will be in their own little world, out of sight, out of mind. This may affect us non-generator types in feeling busy and having the endurance to work. Obviously, don't get used to it. It's a conditioning force. They may also think that they know when enough is enough, which could lead to a premature or abrupt end to something that needs more time. And as being individual circuitry, this channel uh, um, it brings melancholy. Which is that kind of blue feeling that we have. And when you experience melancholy, the best way to utilize that energy is to use it in some form of creative activity. And then on the 13th, the sun then moves into the fifth line of the 23, which is assimilation, the practical acceptance of values of another path, exalted expansion and contribution through assimilation, the gift of communicating individual insight to the collective, detrimented uh, motive-driven assimilation from an inferior position, i.e., for protection or nourishment, motive-driven assimilation for the acceptance and protection of the collective. Fifth line days, the important thing to know about the fifth line is that it really is about projection. And the projection goes positive then negative. First they could do it, they'd be wonderful at it. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it for whatever reason, they don't meet that expectation, that's when the projection turns negative. This is why the fifth line beings have influence over those they don't know well, because if they're wise, they interact during the positive projection and make sure they're out of town when they're building a fire around the stake. So anyway, let's talk about this. This is the line of the heretic. This is day of suspicion, but also universalization, where something can leak out and spread like a virus, whether it's a YouTube video or a Facebook post, something like that. It's a great day of suspicion and paranoia. But as I've said before, if they're projecting onto you, then they truly could be out to get you, and thus it really wouldn't be paranoia. Also, seduction is a theme of fifth line energy. And then on the 14th, the sun then moves up into the sixth line of the 23 at 12:27 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 23/6 is fusion, the gradual attunement of diversity through synthesis, exalted, the exponential growth of energy and its powerful assertion engendered by fusion, individual knowing which brings diversity to synthesis, detrimented, the principle but futile withdrawal from fusion that leads to atrophy, individual knowing that holds on to diversity and loses its power in expression. 6 line days, we are on the roof of the hexagram. I'm having trouble with the sacral. So 6th line, we're on the roof of the hexagram. If you think about being on the roof of your house or the roof of a building, we don't tend to look at the building as much as what's going on in the neighborhood, what's out there, what's next. And so we might consider that the 6th line energy is looking beyond. It's looking, and so with that, Ross talked about not getting stuck with your head in the clouds, because you'll end up with something banging into your kneecaps. It's a day where there's a lack of focus on what's going on around us. Folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. And like the 3rd line day, there's certain dangers of not seeing a car coming, not seeing a bill coming. And then on the 15th, the sun then moves out of the 23 into the 8, and the Earth moves out of the 43 and into the 14. So, we have the Earth in the 14th hexagram, and the gate of power skills, possession in great measure, the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction. Excuse me, coupling grace with control. This shift happens at 11:46 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 8th gate of contribution, holding together the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. The sun in the first line of the 8th gate is honesty, the truthful acceptance of limitation, and the recognition that can only be that it can only be transcended through sharing. Exalted, the awareness that the whole is always greater than the sum of its parts, knowing that the creative expression must be honestly communicated and shared. Detrimental withdrawal, the fear of losing individuality in a group environment, the design to share creativity at the expense of individuality. So we're in a new hexagram again, so lower trigram, the focus being more of people absorbed in their own process. Again, the investigative first line is about research or looking into things, having a fear or an anxiety that triggers the need to find out more, to look into something that perhaps you don't quite understand or know. And then on the 16th, the sun then moves into the second line of the 8th hexagram at 11:05 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun is exalted in the second line of the 8, and it is described as a service, exalted the highest good, to serve selflessly, the potential to be an example through unselfish expression. The second line day, again, people are waiting to be called for their natural talents. And so the hermit line, again, folks are more into their own experience and not so much about going out and socializing. And then on also on the 16th, Venus moves out of the 52nd hexagram and into the 39 hexagram and gate. So Venus is in the gate of the provocateur, obstruction, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. In the first line of the 39, this is disengagement, exalted, the determination when confronted by obstacles to withdraw, but only temporarily. The energy to provoke by refusing to confront obstacles. Detrimented disengagement with the accompanied indecision as to when to re-engage. The refusal to confront obstacles without the capacity to know when to engage. The indecision is also provocation. So no matter what these energies are that are conditioning you during the week, remember this experience is about being a passenger, riding the vehicle, driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery, let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what dramas beckon to distract us. We're all here just giving the performance of the lifetime on the world stage. Just remember to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as acting your part, because you are, after all, a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for May 17th, 2015. Should be available on the 16th, when we will continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, and YouTube. There are New World Birth presences in all those places. I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact with me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. I really do encourage you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you'd like to make a donation or you'd like to get a reading, which also supports our work here. And we are definitely getting to a place where people's financial support is needed. I get a lot of nice comments, a lot of people sharing that they appreciate what's being put out here. I'm just hoping that if you have any resources available, that you can share it with us so that we can continue to keep this going. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best, and look forward to connecting in the future in a reading or in a future video or an email if you have a question. All my best to everybody.